and that he's killed the water and power and everything else to the trailer.
Regardless, how are they
Yeah.
supposed to come back with no water? That's not a habitable.
All right. I'm unmuted.
Mr. Murray, this is a courtroom. Please do not smoke while you're in court.
So
Isn't it your trailer or your fifth wheel?
that was written by the homeowner.
Okay, so not you?
No, ma'am. Well, he gave it to me, but it's not legally mine yet because we don't have the paperwork.
So how did you have any authority to? So, Mr. Murray, I'm going to ask you to please mute your device while the plaintiffs are speaking in this matter, and then we'll turn the attention to you. So again, I have had a chance to review exhibits, but please, I would like you to present, and I ask that just one of you kind of speaks at a time, just so talking over each other can kind of get a little difficult. So if we could just speak one at a time, why don't you start from the beginning with why we're here today for the claim?
We're here today for the contract breach of the trailer. We went into a rent-to-own contract, $750 a month for the space rent and $250 a month for the actual trailer. It was a rent-to-own. That $250 a month would have lasted about 36 months for the total to be paid off. And we're basically here to get that back because of the contract termination, and as well as all the fixes and parts that had to be put into it.
Okay. So, and this goes for Mr. Murray as well. So, I may be asking questions throughout your portion as well, just to provide myself some clarification as well. So the contract you stated was, you said $750 a month for the space and $250 a month for the actual unit, and that was the rent to own portion, correct?
Yeah. Okay. The only thing I'm asking for back is not the $750 a month. That was for the space rent. That's got nothing to do with it.
Okay. Except for the 2 weeks in July, it looks like that you guys had paid rent but weren't on the property.
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if any of those can kind of be combined. Does that make sense? So but kind of let's go down and break through why you're claiming each of these, right? So why $400 for the battery?
Because the batteries are expensive. When I got there was one battery in the trailer that was not holding life. It was a Group 24, so a small battery for that trailer. The proper way to do a trailer there is two Group 27s. So that's what was put in.
So you did that yourself?
Correct. I'm an RV technician. So
I did see that in the letter that was, I think, attached to the small claims as well. So you're familiar with the RV repairs and all of that because that's what you do. Okay. And was he aware about the battery issue from your perspective?
I didn't mention anything to him because it was a rent to own. I just treated it like mine. So I didn't ask him for anything for it. I didn't, because I just assumed it was going to be mine. So
sure. Okay. And then is that the same thing for the rest of the items, like the vent fan, roof vent cover?
Correct.
So all of these repairs were made. Was he aware that you were making repairs to this unit in anticipation of it being the rent to own?
I told him in passing.
Okay.
But it's not, anything that I didn't think that this whole thing would have come down to this. So I didn't,
Sure.
say much.
Okay. And so tell me about, and that goes for, again, sorry, I'm just, if this is repetitive, but so this goes for the batteries, the vent fan, the roof vent cover, the water heater, not the sale and deposit. I'm guessing that's pure for the unit itself with the $250 a month type of thing. Okay. So
And
not
he
that.
paid half of the water heater. So.
And what?
There was a huge leak when we first moved in out of the water heater. So he paid for half of the water heater upon move-in agreement.
Okay,
and he was also
so I think I did remember seeing that. So you're only asking for the $400 that you contributed to the water
Correct.
heater, not the extra money that he
Not the
also paid. I think it was the $450 that he paid.
I think so.
Okay, and then so we have batteries, vent fan, roof vent, water heater, the roof reseal and sealant. That's $150, same thing as the other
Yes.
stuff. Okay, and then we have the $400 for the tanks. Or is that for the valve and pull? It's kind of all in one block, so it's hard to.
That's just for the valve and pulls. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of room to write everything down. So
it's all good. And then we had the $105 for the 2 weeks in July. So why don't we talk about this 2 weeks in July for the $105?
So we were paid up throughout the end of July because of everything that was going on, the hostility, the harassment. We decided that it was best that we move on. We were paid out to the end of July. We were trying to find a place to take the trailer, and I had to come down here to Coos Bay for an interview one weekend. So we drove down here that weekend. We had, taken a couple truckloads out to storage to make things a little bit easier, when it was finally time to move. And on our way down here for my interview that weekend, we got a text message from him with, some language and calling me a druggie and a crankster, to be exact, and that I'm not allowed back on the property, and that he's killed the water and power and everything else to the trailer. I advised him that I still have my things there. We still live there, and we're paid out to the end of July. And he told me I'm not allowed back on the property. I can come get my stuff as long as he's with me, but everything else is locked out.
So, and I think I did remember reading this, but was there any eviction proceedings?
Negative. He going back when everything first started, he was trying to fight me at his house there, or at his mother-in-law's house, and ended up punching a thing right next to me, and then yelled at me that I've got 24 hours to get the trailer and the vehicles out, or he was going to tow them. So I don't know if that's considered an eviction, but there was no official eviction letters done besides just verbal. I'm going to tow your stuff. You need to get out now. Don't come back.
Okay. And is that when you left for the job interview, or did
It was a little bit later, probably a week later.
but he didn't follow through with towing in the 24 hours that he had,
Nothing.
basically threatened to evict you guys?
Nothing was towed.
Okay. And you didn't receive any formal eviction, anything in writing about that?
There might be in those text messages there. We can go through it and look and see if there's anything in there.
But you had it was like a 36-month kind of, you're leasing that space, correct?
Well, the space was just a space. The whole contract was for the trailer itself, $250 a month for 36 months.
Okay. And then whatever the space, you pay that amount, the $750 per
Right.
month for whatever location it was parked in on that property.
Correct.
All right. So let's get back to and so just real quick, when you were down for the interview, you stated that he had locked everything up. What do you mean by that?
He put a padlock on the water, killed the electrical. It's in one of the text messages here, saying that I'm not allowed back. I'm a crankster, and he's killed the water and utilities and everything to the trailer.
Was that news to you was that the first time you had heard that?
Yes. He says she's almost found a message for it. So.
It's quite all right. Yeah, no, that's fine. We started a little early, so.
He said, as of right now, no water and no power to the RV. This is on page number 32.
Thank you.
He
Thank you for
says,
helping direct me.
no power, no water to the RV. And the water's been locked out. Truckload after truckload with no communication on you guys. Gave up on trailer when I saw everything being moved out. So he already knew that we were leaving. I didn't have to tell him my step by step on, what I'm taking and where I'm taking it. I said, I pay till the end of the month. I still live there till the end of the month. What you are doing is illegal, and I hope you understand that. I still have things there that are mine. I put money, but it's supposed to be mine, and we haven't moved out yet. And he said, you can come empty it all you want. Pics have already been sent to the outside and anything on trailer. So almost like he's telling me that I'm going to come back and mess it up or something. I will win like I always do. I am done with your guys's crap. There will be a truck parked in front of the fifth wheel in his name, which it wasn't in his name. It's never been registered in the state of Washington when I found out. Because when he originally told me that I was going to take it with me, I called the DMV to see if, what needed to be done. And they say it's never even been registered in the state of Washington. It still had on plates from somewhere else. He said, any problems, you can meet me here anytime and see where and how you want to proceed. 36 months, just what you signed. So 36 months is that $250 a month for the trailer.
Okay. And so the big portion of your claim right now is the sale and deposit for this fifth wheel, right? So let's break down how we got to that amount, $7,550.
So it would be, I think he said on one of them 14 months, the other one he said 15 months. So I can't remember if I did that to 15 months or 14 months, but 250 times 15 is $3,750, and then $1,000 deposit plus all the parts.
Okay. So that's how you got, so it was $250 plus times the 15 months that you had made payments on it, and then plus the $1,000 security deposit.
Correct.
And so the security deposit, did that, in your agreement, the security deposit, it's really hard to tell again in the pictures. I guess, what was the agreement of the parties with that security deposit? Was there any language about him retaining a security deposit if certain conditions are?
I can't remember the exact wording. It had some wording in there such as if they deem something.
Okay.
So basically, if it's clean and undamaged and so on and so forth, I think it was more for the property than the trailer since it was a rent to own.
Right, it's a rent to own, so it's a little bit different in that regard. But okay, so the security deposit was just basically, it's like it probably encompassed the 36 months of the period that you would be renting to own and also the space too. Okay.
That's how I took it.
Okay, and you're just seeking to claim all of it looks like the repairs that you made yourself. You're
Correct.
seeking to the compensation for those, and those are the parts. And so you paid $400 for batteries.
Yes, and that's just the parts alone. That's not labor or anything. I'm not
Sure.
worried about the labor.
All right, so we have here, you've had a chance to review the exhibits. I've had a chance to review the exhibits, but why don't we start from let's start from your perspective from the beginning.
Well, basically, it's pretty simple. It's $1,000 a month for 36 months. They moved out on month 14, 15. I can't remember which one it was, but we have receipts for all that. So they paid everything like they were supposed to. They moved out. They never received an eviction notice. They never received anything. This trailer was something that I brought up there that I got from my buddy, and we set it up for $1,000 a month for 36 months. The title will be signed over to him when he pays the 36 month. He can pull it off the property. He can do whatever it is he wants to do. Good to go. They only made it 14 or 15 months. I never gave them nothing. I don't know. They just moved out. I locked the water. First of all, the power was never locked out. It was hardwired. I put a lock on the water because the neighbors came over and told me that they were going to flood the trailer. So that's what I did. Now, they never told me they needed it unlocked or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, well, I ain't going to take a chance at my trailer getting ruined. So second of all is as far as all the parts being bought, absolutely. That was very respectful of him to say, yeah, I paid for half of that because the first week they moved in, they had a problem with the hot water tank. Okay, it's not my responsibility to pay for half of their hot water tank, but I did it to be, whatever. They're a new tenant. So if you want a hot water tank, I'll pay for half of it. No big deal. Okay. I don't know about any of the other repairs, did not know about anything, did not receive any bills for these. It's not my responsibility to fix his trailer, nor is it my responsibility to let him pull a trailer out of there on month 15 when the contract has not been fulfilled. And neither do I own the property, or do I even have anything to do with the property other than just helping the 80-year-old woman that owns it run it. That's it. So
wait, so you don't, how was so the contract, was it entered with the property owner or you?
The rental agreement was, and it's really not a contract. It's a rental agreement.
Well, a rental agreement is
it's a what?
It is kind of a contract. That is a written document where parties have come to consideration in terms.
Okay. That was written by the homeowner.
Okay, so not you?
No, ma'am.
So,
and all this stuff was in there. And as far as the roof caulking, I mean, I just chuckle on that because I ordered a whole case of roof caulking off of my Amazon Prime account and gave it to him. So why am I being charged for something that I ordered on my account and just handed it to him. So I don't really know. Yeah. So I think on the back page, like you stated, 4/6/24, I see both of their signatures, but then on the other one, I don't.
That's not their signature. That looks like your handwriting or somebody's handwriting.
Well, then they never signed it.
Well, neither did whoever owns the property.
Right.
Who owns the fifth wheel?
My buddy.
But you, okay. Well, and how does your mother-in-law have the authority to rent out the fifth wheel?
Because what had happened is
For rent to own.
my buddy gave me the fifth wheel, said, take it. I'm done with it. They couldn't find the title. I said, okay, I've got a tenant that wants to move in, or a couple that wants to move into this. Did it 36 months, $1,000 a month, however you want to break it down. And so that would give a time to file for the lost title or whatever needed to be done. 36 months. We should have been able to get a title. It's paid for. So
Isn't it your trailer or your fifth wheel?
Well, he gave it to me, but it's not legally mine yet because we don't have the paperwork.
So how do you have any authority to enter this in agreement and also turn the water off and tell them they can't come back to the property and park in front of the fifth wheel? That I'm just struggling to understand your involvement in all of this. If you're not the owner of the property, the owner of the fifth wheel, and I don't see any authorization for you to do that.
Okay.
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Okay. They just randomly decided to just stop. If you're understanding, what kind of was the breakdown?
The breakdown was they just started moving out.
That's okay.
That was the breakdown. So now they want all this money for moving out. If I don't have the authority to evict them, like you're stating, why did they move out?
Well, they're saying they didn't move out because it sounded like it was becoming kind of and they paid through July. Is that accurate?
I'd have to look, but I think that's pretty darn accurate. It was 14 or 15 months, ma'am, that they made it.
So, but they paid through July, but you locked them out of, and you didn't allow them to take the fifth wheel off the trailer through the month of July.
Didn't allow them to what?
Take the fifth wheel off the property?
Yeah, it was never allowed to go off the property until
But you didn't allow them to come to it either because you were worried that they were going to flood the trailer based off what your neighbor said.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't have came to it. That's why they were taking truckloads up.
You locked the water. How are they supposed to return to that if you've locked the water? And they said that you turned off the power as well.
No,
I did not. Regardless, how are they supposed to come back with no water? That's not a habitable living environment, and you would be in a lot more trouble if that were the case.
Okay.
So for this month of July, this month of July, they paid the full month of July, and you basically shut off the water, locked them out of you parked the truck in front of the fifth wheel so they couldn't take it off in the middle of July. So they could not benefit from the enjoyment of the property they had paid for.
Right. Yep.
So you're not disputing this $150 for the rent of July?
No.
Okay. So it's your understanding that they just moved out. There was no, they didn't have any issues or anything they brought to your attention?
No, the issues were starting to rise. And when I put my foot down that it's not going to happen like that on my mother-in-law's property, then they started.
What's not going to happen like what?
What's not going to happen? Him cruising down the driveway at 30 miles an hour and almost hitting little kids. Drugs being on the property. That's not going to happen. That's the way it, I'm sorry, but that's not.
I have no evidence to support that except for your testimony. So that's fine. But that is not in the lease agreement, that in the rental agreement that you have, there's nothing indicating.
Well, the rental
agreement. That's a basis for termination. But you're the one acting in authority for your mother-in-law. You are the one that is clearly discussing and communicating with these tenants. And I'm guessing with the other tenants that are in the fifth wheels on that property as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you are acting on authority of your mother-in-law?
Yep.
Okay, so you do have authority to evict people or turn water off or do any other things that were requested by a tenant?
With the proper documentation.
What do you mean proper documentation?
Well, if you do an eviction, you serve them papers.
Correct. And if you cut off water, isn't that a constructive eviction?
No.
How so?
because I'm not going to have a trailer ruined.
But you don't know this.
Okay.
You're talking
well,
about something that I'm just asking. You shut off the water.
Yeah, I did. Nobody's arguing that.
Shutting off water makes a living situation uninhabitable.
Okay.
No,
Then-
that's accurate.
Do what you want to do.
Okay, well, if you have nothing further to say, then I will turn the attention back to Mr. Sims and Ms. Weicker. Can you please mute yourself, Mr. Murray? All right.
All right. I'm unmuted.
Mr. Murray, this is a courtroom. Please do not smoke while you're in court. You're really close to being held in contempt at this point, Mr. Murray. Please have more respect for the court of law. Okay,
Just a couple things.
please.
Go
I may interrupt you for questions, but please go ahead.
That's fine. If you turn to page 10, this will give you the reason that I told him of why we were moving out. So due to the issues here with you and the neighbors, we are leaving by August 1st. That was the hostility, the harassment, so on and so forth. So I told him that we were moving, on August 1st. I said, if I'm taking this trailer, it would need plates and registrations to be legal to tow. So I was trying to stay within my contract and keep it. I was trying to figure out in that same text there of how to make the payments to him so we can stay in contract. And he wants me to call him. And I said, given how the last couple conversations went, I think it's best we keep the communications in text or writing, just because of the way the conversations were going. Later on down the page 10, he said, like I said, $1,000, 36, on month 15, full deposit paid. So on the first, why don't you just take the trailer or hook onto the trailer with the fifth wheel truck and we are even. I will get you paperwork for the trailer. You owe me nothing. I owe you nothing. And that's what I was trying to call about. And I said, so August 1st, you keep security deposit and I take trailer and you sign it over to me. He said, absolutely. And then later on that story changed.
Okay.
He
So
says
is your
that
understanding, you guys had a modified agreement to the rental agreement, since you weren't going to be maintaining that space for $750 a month, but you still wanted to make the payments. And then it looks like you guys had come to some sort of alternate arrangement to take that fifth wheel. That eventually changed, right? But on August 1st, that was your understanding?
correct.
Okay.
And it was so sporadic, trying to figure out what to do. But as far as the drugs go, Your Honor, I don't do drugs. I spent 15 years doing law enforcement work. I do not do drugs at all.
That's
so that's
not in
just,
question. I'm not considering
okay.
that, just for
Sorry, it hurts
I
my heart
understand.
to hear that. And then later on, here on page, what was that, 18, 19?
18, so if you're looking for right here.
Okay. So to answer your question, you asked him earlier, page 18, those
Mhm.
texts, we'll answer some of those questions. That was text messages between Dean and Christy. Christy said, you put Gail in charge and you left everything up to her. Gail is his mother-in-law. He said, he didn't leave Gail in charge of anything except to collect rent. That's why I'm on all bank accounts and I have full power of attorney and also have a quick claim to the house she lives in. So that tells me that he's the acting landlord and he's the acting property owner, basically, at that point.
And that was your understanding?
That was my understanding. I knew that was his mother-in-law's house, but my understanding was he was running the show there and he was doing everything there. I was also under the understanding that was his trailer that he was selling me.
So you thought he had made it, he told you that was his trailer to sell to you. Okay.
Yes, he bought it from an auction is what he specifically told me.
Okay. And then this rental agreement that you entered, it's hard for you to tell, but is this what it looked like to you guys with all of these handwritten and highlights and color? Okay. I just wanted to verify. And is this is somebody one of your handwritings?
That's yours.
That's my handwriting.
Okay. So this is your handwriting that you filled in towards this, is that you're just saying you acknowledge you received this. Okay.
Correct.
And then who did you sign this agreement with? Was it with Mr. Murray?
It was
or was
with both.
They were both there.
They were
Both there?
both present
Okay.
at the time.
And he is holding himself out to be either the landlord or operating on behalf of the landlord. Is that?
Correct.
And then he presented it to you that he was the owner of the fifth wheel.
Correct. And
Okay.
he also was the actor as well that showed up for L&I for my L&I complaint on the property. He's the one that dealt with all of that as well. And you can
Okay.
see some messages there between L&I.
Right. Okay.
You can see here on page 18 as well, where he says, next issue I have from either of you, off with the breaker and water, not ducking around anymore. Either take trailer on first and leave peacefully, or I will keep trailer and sue the F out of both of you guys. Decide and let me know.
Okay. And that was on, do we know what date that was on?
Oh, she's still got it in her phone real quick. She'll
Okay.
pull it up.
That's fine. I'm just trying to see if it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we were threatened multiple times with getting the power and the electricity and everything else shut down.
Wednesday, July 16th.
Wednesday, July 16th is when that statement was made.
And this is when you guys had fully paid the July rent.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure I have everything that I want
Yes, ma'am.
asked before. And so you're basically seeking the money that you paid for that you put into the trailer plus the security deposit and the parts that you did. This caulking that Mr. Murray had mentioned, he said that he bought it from Amazon and gave it to you. Is that?
No, that's when I resealed his trailer. He bought the caulking off Amazon, and I resealed his trailer. His other trailer is at his house. This is stuff that I purchased from my job.
Okay. Because you intended to, well, it doesn't sound like the rent in July is in dispute at all. Even Mr. Murray indicates that that's accurate. He's not disputing that. I guess I have a question for Mr. Murray before I make my ruling.
Would you like me to mute?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Murray. So looking at the exhibits, you do threaten to cut off water and electricity. Is that
Yep.
accurate?
Yep.
And you actually did cut off water.
Water, not electricity.
Okay. Do you see how a tenant or somebody that you are, acting as a landlord to somebody, how somebody could take that as like you're going to cut off electricity and the water? I can't live in this place anymore.
Yeah, but they already started to move out, so that's why I did that.
But they paid through the full month of July.
Okay, that's fine.
So but they paid through the full month of July, aren't they entitled to the enjoyment of that through the full month of July?
Well, probably. It's just I was a little bit worried about ruining the trailer, so that's what was going through my brain. So yeah, but
that's not a legal basis to.
Okay. Well, nothing's legal about this though. The rental agreement's not legal. It's not notarized. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, if I need to pay for July, then I'll pay for July. But I shouldn't have to pay for something that, number one, couldn't be taken off the property until the 36th month. Number two is, I don't know. I never authorized any of these repairs. So do you just buy a used vehicle and the guy has to repair it the whole time that you're making payments on it? I mean, that don't even make sense.
So what is your position when they brought up the fact that you said, like I said, I took 100,000 or 1,000 times 36. You are on month 15 with a full deposit paid. So on the first, why don't you hook onto trailer with a fifth wheel truck? And we are even. I will get you paperwork for trailer. You owe me nothing. I owe you nothing. That's what I was trying to call about.
Because I was gonna try to work with them until they started giving me a bunch of grief. And I called the attorney and he said, absolutely not. He said, Dean, they moved out on their own.
But then, but the problem is you have a writing and a text message.
Okay.
That does modify the agreement, right? So he
And
says, so August 1st, you keep security deposit and I take trailer and you sign title over to me. And you said, absolutely. I think that is fair. I was actually talking to Gail about that the other day. So you thought that was a fair resolution. So it seems like you guys had come to an agreement that they would move out August 1st. They had paid through the full month of July.
Yep.
And then you changed your mind because you thought they were going to damage the trailer that you said that you agreed that they could take on August 1st.
I changed my mind because of them threatening me when I was up there. So that regardless.
No, not regardless. This is the agreement that you had.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll make my ruling.
Yeah.
One moment while I get my paperwork together.
It's not even in my name, so I don't know how you could do that.
Well, you were certainly acting with authority to do so, as you yourself had indicated in the text messages you sent, stating, did not leave Gail in charge of anything except collect rent. That's why I am on all bank accounts and I have full power of attorney and also have a quitclaim to the house she lives in.
Okay.
So
That doesn't have anything to do with the rental agreement. I didn't write the rental agreement or the
but you are
contract.
acting, but you have also testified under oath that you have authority to act upon on behalf of your mother-in-law as the property owner, and you hold yourself out to be managing the property, working with all these tenants the whole time.
Yeah, but I didn't put the terms in the rental agreement. That's not my handwriting.
Okay.
That's some cartoonist handwriting. I
What-
mean, look at it. It's an
Okay.
80-year-old woman that drew it up.
Regardless, you are holding yourself out to be authorized to act
Okay.
upon it. You are texting the tenant saying you have authorization to do all of these things, and then
Okay.
are threatening them to cut off water. So
Can we
yes,
put, oh, sorry.
you are holding yourself out to be that.
Can we please just make the ruling?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Firstly, I'm accepting all the exhibits in the file, so it's available upon appeal. In the small claims, Christopher Sims versus Christy Weicker, or Christopher Sims and Christy Weicker versus Dean Murray. We had an open court pursuant to a trial. Looking through the claim, I'm gonna have to get a calculator out for this one. So to start off with the easy one that's not in dispute, I am awarding the plaintiff $105 for the partial payment in the month of July. That is no dispute whatsoever. You had fully paid, and then Mr. Murray had basically cut off ability to enjoy the property at that point. So that shall be granted. I am going to grant the plaintiffs the entirety of their claim. To break it down, the sale and deposit was $4,750. So that would be $250 a month times 15 months, which is $3,750 plus the $1,000 security deposit, totaling that amount. I find that Mr. Murray was acting with authority for his mother-in-law. He was holding himself out. In fact, in his statement from the defendant here, it says, so I run a small RV park for my mother-in-law. I have decided to rent to Chris and Christy. So he is acting as a landlord, and I will be holding him as such, at least having the authorization to act as a landlord. So with the sale and deposit, it does appear through text messages, exhibits 10 and 18 provided by the plaintiffs, that they had come to an alternative resolution to where they had indicated that they had paid the full month of July. They were intending to move out August 1st, and they were wanting to come up with a potential plan to pay off the rest of the fifth wheel. And you agreed that they had paid in full and called it fair, and they could take it on the first of the month. You changed your mind because of other things that came up, and you're concerned about them flooding the trailer, but I'm not lending any credence to that at this point. I find that the cutting off of water and the threats that were made by Mr. Murray to the plaintiffs, and Mr. Murray, just for the record, is off camera while I'm giving my ruling, so we'll continue to do so. There he is. All right, so with that, I also find that the plaintiffs, specifically Mr. Sims, had bought parts to fix up the fifth wheel. Because this was a rent to own, it makes sense. And even Mr. Murray said that it makes sense for them to fix it on their own behalf, right? So I am going to award the entirety of the amount to the plaintiffs.